Welcome to discover the secret of electrifying performances and audiences. Audiences, electrified audiences, no, auditions. My name is Joseph Arnold. I am a creative Soulforce mentor. I'll say more about what Soulforce is as we go along here. I'm also a violinist, an Alexander Technique teacher, and author of an upcoming book. I'll tell you about that at the end. And today we're going to take a look at what this secret is. What is the secret of electrifying performances and auditions, and how can you reliably tap into that secret in even the most challenging circumstances? And performances and auditions are some of the most challenging circumstances we might find. So this is the idea for today. I'd like to tell you a story about an artistic challenge and how that led to a discovery of what I call Soulforce, which to me is the secret of performances and auditions. So when I was in Alexander Technique training school, learning how to become a teacher, I was not the only musician there. There were many other musicians, and we would often do activity lessons in the class. So all of us were there, maybe 15 of us who were all studying to become Alexander teachers, and one at a time we would get up in front of the group and do our thing and seek help from our teacher, our Alexander Technique teacher, for relieving tension. And I remember one time there was this pianist, very fine pianist. She was very well trained, and she got up and played her piece, and it sounded really good. But she was noticing this tension in her body. She was getting uncomfortable. Her back was sore, and her fingers were getting tired. And so she was asking for help to relieve all of this. And so our teacher worked with her using the Alexander Technique hands-on work, which helped guide her body into a state of ease. And the most amazing thing happened. Her music suddenly took on a new quality. It no longer sounded like she was just getting the notes right really, really well. There was this luminous energy that came through. It was shocking. And it was just so moving as well. It's like this transcendent experience. And it was so, it really caught my attention. I thought, wow, what is that about? That's exactly what artists want to channel, and that's exactly what audiences want to experience. And what was really noticeable about it was that it came through spontaneously. She didn't go home and practice for 6 months to get really, really good at doing something and then have this luminous quality come through. Rather, she just let go of something let go, and something was allowed to flow through her. And so this is really the secret of the whole thing. If you want really electrifying performances and auditions, you gotta learn how to let go of the tension that's getting in the way of your soul force, this luminous, transformative, expressive quality. And the good news is, once you learn how to get out of the way of it, then it's just going to come through. You don't really have to do anything. It just pours through you naturally. It's who you are. It's who you are. And you just got to unlock it. So I'll tell you another story of a young student that I had some years ago. She was a violin student, maybe 12 years old, and I brought her through kind of a similar process, a little bit of a different process, where I noticed that she was playing her piece in kind of a mechanical way. Da 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 da. She was just getting the notes right. And so I asked her, well, she actually said, actually, why does my music sound so robotic? I was like, perfect. This is so great. She was actually noticing what's happening. And what we came to is that she was paying attention to trying to get the notes right. And so that's what was coming through in her sound. This is one of the principles. What you pay attention to comes through in your performance. And so she was paying attention to something kind of boring and mechanical and inert. Just the idea of the notes on the page. And so her music sounded boring, mechanical, and inert. So I then asked her to pay attention to something alive inside of her instead. Because this is really what the arts are about. They're about bringing us more alive. And so I asked her to notice her, what I call the inner audience member. And this is maybe the area around your heart and your gut that experiences certain feelings, emotions, sensations. When, like in the case of music, when you're hearing something, when you enjoy it, you feel more open, there's more pleasurable, there's more movement. When you're not enjoying it, you feel more closed, you're more bored maybe, there's less pleasure, less movement. And so in any case, I had her pay attention to this aliveness within her. And again, this amazing thing happened. All of a sudden, spontaneously, out of nowhere. I never heard her play like this before. I heard her coming through. Her body was relaxed. The music flowed. Da dum bum ba da 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 ya da da. It turned into real music. And even though, I've played that song so many times, and I've heard all my students play it so many times, I was entranced. Not because of her playing that particular song, but because of her aliveness that was coming through. And so again, this is what I call soul force. All right, so this is kind of what we're aiming at. And I'm going to share just a couple more principles, and then we're going to do some explorations together. One of the commonalities in these two stories, and one of the things that is so important for being able to give electrifying performances and auditions, is to understand that where your soul force comes from. Okay, so actually, let me take even a further step back. So what your audiences want from you, and what hopefully people listening to an audition want from you, is your soul force. That's what they want. They may not say it that way. They may not have different words for it. They may not realize that this is what they're looking for consciously, but they want your soul force. They want to be moved. Right? And you can't do that if you're just getting it right. You just can't. No matter how good you are at getting it right. I've heard world-class musicians get it right. And you know what? I walked away from those performances really angry. I paid for this. I wanted to be moved. And of course, the temptation in a high pressure situation is to try really, 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 really hard to get it right. But it's going to backfire. It's going to backfire. Even if you do get it all correct, your performance is going to miss something, miss the most important thing. And it's not that technique is wrong or bad or you should avoid it. Not at all. It's just that usually people focus on technique exclusively, and then they miss the two other aspects of mastery. Technique is only 1/3 of mastery. There are two other pieces. One is effortlessness. Effortlessness is how easily your body moves, how fluidly. The point of effortlessness is to lubricate your technique. Can you really say that you've mastered something unless it's effortless? All right, and then the third piece of mastery is the knowledge of the soul. This is the why. Why are you doing this in the first place? It's to express something deeper within. It's what you have to say, your contribution to the world through your creativity. The combination of these three, like the purpose of technique is to give form to your knowledge of the soul, right? And the purpose of effortlessness is to lubricate the technique and the knowledge of the soul, to open up a channel to the soul force, right? So this is how it works. You need all three. And you might think back to your artistic training. Where was the focus primarily? Thinking back to mine, there was only focus on technique. I remember, I had a lot of pain in my arms from playing violin with a lot of tension at the time, and part of that was because I was focusing so strictly on technique, and I didn't even realize I had a body. Like, my teacher told me to relax, and I didn't know how to do that. Wasn't until I found Alexander technique that I actually learned how to do that. So in any case, so what we're going to do for the remainder of our time here is focus on effortlessness and how effortlessness opens a channel to your soul force. Because if you can do that in the moment of challenge, you're golden. All right, and we're going to go over some very simple methods for doing that, or undoing that, you might say. All right. Oh yeah. So I guess one more thing about that, and then we'll get into that. So what I love about the Alexander technique, what makes it really unique and different than other methods of well-being or health, is that it allows you to respond to challenge with ease. And this is very unique. A lot of manual type therapies, so if you're exercising or stretching or using heat therapy or yoga or massage or chiropractic, all these things are great. I like using these things, but they don't change how you respond to the critical moment. They don't change how you respond to the difficult thing. And if you don't change how you respond to the difficult thing, then you're always going to be compensating for the stress that you're feeling. Your channel is always going to be constricted at the moment you need it to be open. And so this relates to Soulforce as well. So to me, what Soulforce is, it's the transformative, creative energy that arises when you face life's challenges from a place of wholeness, aliveness, and connection. And that's the secret to electrifying art in general. To face your artistic challenges from wholeness, aliveness, and connection. All right, so now we're going to do some explorations together. The first has to do with the mind-body connection. All right, so just like I was saying in the second story earlier, when my student was paying attention to one thing, her music came out one way, and when she was paying attention to something else, it came out differently. So in the Alexander technique, we understand that the mind-body is a unity. Two different words for aspects of the same thing. And so I'm going to share a little exploration that you can do to experiment with this. And it's called 4 Thoughts, 4 Bodies. I adapted this from Alexander technique teacher Mead Andrews, who had 3 thoughts, but I made it one better. So we're going to do this. So we're going to do a kind of a simple movement with each of these 4 thoughts, and I want you to notice what happens in your body, what happens to your mood, what happens to your sense of space, your sense of connection with your surroundings. Okay, so the first thought is, I have to do it fast, and I have to get it right. All right, so now I want you to, let's see, bring your arms up in the air, and bring them back down, and let's just do that a few times. I have to do it fast, I have to get it right. I have to do it fast, I have to get it right. All right. Good. So what do you notice? Do you get tighter or freer? Okay. So usually people get tighter and they have less fun. It feels kind of stressful. And there's this kind of tightening up and this anxious feeling. All right. So thought number 2 is, I hope I don't mess up. I hope I don't mess up. Okay, so let's do the same activity. Arms up and down. I hope I don't mess up. Hope I don't mess up. Hope I don't mess up. Okay, just notice what that's like. I see a big smile on your face, Heidi. That means you're doing it wrong. Not supposed to be fun. So, again, it's similar kind of questions. Do you get tighter or freer? You having more fun or less fun? Are your movements more smooth or more disjointed? Are you noticing your surroundings at all? I usually do this in group classes, and we do like high fives, and typically like everybody has their blinders on, and there's very little eye contact happening, and it's not fun. And there's this sort of down and tightening kind of feeling. And okay, so then we have thought number 3, which is, let's see, I can't do it, I give up. I can't do it, I give up. All right, so moving your arms up and down, I can't do it, I give up. All right. So you can notice what that's like. Maybe you can even see a difference. I certainly saw a difference in both of us moving. Like I felt more slumped. My body was softer than the previous 2, but not energized, not able to do things. My mood was dampened. My sense of space much smaller. A lot less energy, a lot less connection to my surroundings. So we're going to get to the 4th one in just a moment, but you can think back on these first 3 and see if any of these feel familiar to your performance or audition experiences. I have to do it fast. I have to get it right. Oh no, I hope I don't mess up. I bet that one feels familiar. And I can't do it. I give up. So then let's try the 4th one. sort of the antidote. I'm at ease with myself, and I have plenty of time. Okay, let's do the arms together. I'm at ease with myself, and I have plenty of time. Looks like you're really enjoying that, Heidi. That looks great. Like, waking up from a morning. Ooh. Do, 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 do. Yeah, totally. Very different, right? So I notice I get freer, I have a lot more fun, it's more pleasurable, I have more of a sense of my surroundings, I'm less sort of fixated internally. I did this at a workshop recently, and people were giving each other hugs on this fourth one, whereas before they weren't even looking at each other at all. So one purpose of this exploration is simply to bring awareness to the way that your thoughts change your body. All right, and to notice your habits. Which of these sets of thoughts or neighborhoods of thought do you find yourself in these moments of challenge? The more you bring awareness to that, the more choice you can have over it. Usually what happens is we get lost in our thoughts. And because of the emotional intensity, it's like we don't have any mental space for anything else. And that leads to a vicious cycle, because your thoughts get tight, your body gets tight, your thoughts get tight, your body gets tight, and then you're like dropping your violin up on stage. Right, and then the other purpose of that exercise is to highlight a solution, right? So you could bring in a thought like, I'm at ease with myself and I have plenty of time. And even if you only believe it 1%, that's 1% better than being all stressed out. So you can practice this just in your daily life. Like, do you really have to rush across the room to get your coffee cup? You could try it then. I'm at ease with myself and I have plenty of time as I get my coffee cup. What you'll notice is, as you practice that, you'll notice all the reasons why you're getting so tight and rushing around needlessly in the first place. And it's wise to explore those underlying reasons, whatever they might be. Okay. So another very useful mind-body exploration, something I call Spacious Awareness. And this is something I adapted from Open Focus. Les Femi, who's a Princeton University researcher on biofeedback. So in any case, his book is called Open Focus, and I've adapted it. And I really find it very useful, very, very useful. And so it's based on a similar principle, that your sense of space, and this is basically how you're paying attention, and what you're paying attention to affects your body. All right, so we're going to explore this together, step by step. So I want you to pretend that you have a needle and thread in your hands. Okay, so we're going to do this together. So you got the needle here, the thread here, and you get that itty bitty little hole in that needle. And that thread, I don't know if that thread's going to make it. So you try it a couple times, you try to put it in, missed, that hole is really small. Okay, so what's happening to your sense of space? Is it getting smaller or bigger? Probably smaller, right? Because you're paying attention to that little needle. And what's happening in your body as a response? You getting tighter or freer? For a lot of people, when your sense of space gets small, your body gets tighter. Okay, so now we're going to do the opposite. What's the opposite of a small sense of space? It's a big sense of space. So we're going to take a look around, look above, look below and to either side. Okay, and even if you're in a room, remember that there's a sky above you. There's a neighborhood all around. There's the earth all the way below you. You got a big sense of space. Right? So just notice what happens in your body when you have a big sense of space. Do you get tighter or freer? Right? So for a lot of people, you get freer. Now here comes the interesting part. What do you do when you have to pay attention to something small and specific, and you have to get it right? Because that needle, it's got to get through the thread has got to get through the needle hole for it to work at all, right? So this is one of those moments of challenge. And we're going to use the sense of space to respond to this challenge differently than before. Okay, so we have our needle and the thread here. So go ahead and take a look at your needle, take a look at your thread. And now remember that you have this big sense of space all around you. The sky is still above. The earth is still below. There's still space on either side of you and in back of you. The space inside the needle is continuous with the space all around you. All right, so now you pretend threading that needle, remembering this big sense of space as you do so. All right, and so you notice the difference. Does your body get tight or free when you remember the sense of space? Can you still see the needle? Can you still do what you need to do? Having this big sense of space, right? So you can apply this to really any creative challenge. And I teach this to all of my students, even my violin students, because it's so effective. What I'll do, for instance, in a lesson, so I'm trying to help them practice in a way that lets them play more effortlessly. So we'll find the challenging moment, what I call the critical moment in the piece. So I'm a musician, so I'm obviously teaching to music, but you can adapt this to other art forms. So let's say that there's one leap between two notes that they're just messing up every single time. And I can see that they're really struggling, they're getting frustrated, their body's all tense, right? So, and I work with them to find out, what's the hardest part of that passage for you? And we identify, okay, maybe it's in between these two notes where you're getting so tight. So what we'll do is play the first note, big sense of space. And we'll have a pause there. And maybe we'll get into that pause a little bit today as well. I can say more about that because that's really effective too. So we'll have a sense of space and play up to that first note, or maybe just that first note, and then pause, noticing the big sense of space. And I have them only play the next note if they can keep that big sense of space. And what happens universally is that they play it so much better. I mean, sometimes it feels new, like a little unfamiliar, so they fumble a little bit because they have this big sense of space, and they're not used to doing that, and they're not used to their body being free as they play this thing. But that goes away very quickly. And the more that they practice having the big sense of space while they're doing the really challenging thing, then the freer their body gets. And the more smoothly the whole thing goes. Their sound gets so much better, the musicality is so much better. And this is a really important skill for being up on stage as well. You can actually send yourself into a panic mode by having your blinders on. So, and Heidi is just writing, like imagining an aura around you. I think that's a great idea. So having some sense of the space around you. You notice really great performers, all they have to do is walk out on stage, and everybody in the audience shuts up. They're paying attention, like already entranced. Like Miles Davis was like that, and many other great performers. And what that's about, in part, is their quality of presence. Quality of presence is made up of a lot of things, but a big part of that is the sense of space that you have. Now, when I'm performing and I'm anxious, my impulse is to close down my sense of space. It's like a protective shield or something, cocoon. And while there is something true in that, if I put on my blinders and I put up my cocoon, there is something protective for me around that. It also gets in the way of my musicality. So what I'm not saying here is to force yourself to set down protections, emotional protections that you still find useful. That's not going to work if you force yourself to do that. It's rather to begin to notice what your habits are and to have some effective tools for, or simply, let's say, effective alternates. Once you begin to experience how well things go when you have this big sense of space, how free your body is, how much more comfortable you feel, how well your playing goes, then it's much easier to trust and set down those guards and enjoy yourself. Because that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the arts. To come more alive. Okay, so yeah, I think we can do a little bit more here with, I'll just describe two more approaches. So I mentioned the pause earlier, so I have a whole method around this. I call it the magic pause. I'll describe it very briefly right now. So basically, your habits of tension can be described as stimulus and response. Stimulus is whatever you want to do or whatever you're responding to, and your response is whatever happens next in your body. So let's say conductor lifts her baton. Your response is hurt, or whatever it is. It might have too much tension in it, which is what we're talking about here. Or it's your turn to walk out on stage. That's the stimulus. Your response might be, bah! Right? So what we want is to face the same stimulus, the same challenge, with ease, right? So what we got to do is break the connection between the stimulus and your old response, so we can have stimulus new response. How do we do that? We have stimulus pause. Oh, wait a second, I was about to do the old thing, and instead we're going to do the new one. All right, so this is the magic pause. I called it the magic pause because in that moment of pause, you suddenly regain your sense of choice and agency. And in that, your body sort of organically makes a choice for ease. You don't have to try to relax. In fact, trying to relax is a contradiction. You can't do it. What you can do is pause before you respond to something, and your body will naturally be more at ease when you do that. So we're going to do something similar here with our arms. All right, so we're going to do 3 stages this time. 1, 2, and then 3 down in your lap. Okay, so I want you to notice your body. Just notice how you normally use your body. Don't try to change anything or relax or anything. Do you get tighter or freer? Anywhere in your body. Here we go. 1, noticing your body. 2, arms up. Noticing your body. Do you get tighter or freer? And then 3, down in your lap. So we're just establishing a baseline here. What do you normally do in your body? So a lot of people tend to get a little bit tight here, and then with this one, they get a lot more tight, especially in their shoulders. And a lot of people just assume that this is how their bodies work. But it doesn't need to be this way. You can do this absolutely effortlessly. So here's how we do that. What we're going to do, I'm going to say 1, 2, and 3 as before. That's the stimulus. But instead of moving right away, we're going to pause for a few seconds. Okay, here we go. So 1, pause. Once you start with your hands down in your lap. Yeah, there we go. So 1, pause. We don't go quite yet. And then we go. 2, pause. And then you go. 3, pause. All right. So what do you notice this time? Do you get tighter or freer? A lot of people tend to get freer with this, just with that little pause. And so again, you can use this in lots of different ways. It's a really, 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 really good idea to practice with lots of pauses. You can, again, if you're playing music, you can go through your sheet music and put a little star or a little mark at all the critical moments, all the places in the sheet music where you get tight. And what you do is put a pause just before those moments of tension. Nice long pause. In the beginning, like 3 to 5 seconds. You really want to let that initial impulse of tension get a chance to subside. When you do that, you're not just practicing the notes, right? You're practicing effortless mastery. And again, we need that effortlessness to let your soul force through. And now with something like music, obviously when you're up on stage, you're not going to be taking these big long pauses. But if you practice with the long pauses, then you're training your body to be effortless in those moments. And then you can also do what I call micro pauses, which are pauses so short that only you know that they're there. And nobody else does. So you can work with that in certain ways. And if you want more guidance on that, you can reach out to me. Like I said, I have a whole methodology around this. Okay, so we're going to do one more little mind-body exploration here, and then we'll start to wrap things up. So you could say that the fundamental cause of muscular tension is the pursuit of, let's say, the maximization of a narrow goal at the expense of the whole. The maximization of a narrow goal at the expense of the whole. So in this case, it might be, like I keep saying, getting it right. That might be the narrow goal. And it's narrow because it excludes other aspects of what matter in a performance, like your effortlessness, like your soul force. And in that exclusion, you get tight. And Mr. Alexander, who came up with the Alexander technique, he had his own word for this called end gaining. But I find this idea of understanding the maximization of a narrow goal at the expense of the whole is like really powerful. And it's not something that applies only to muscular tension and music. You look at basically any of the challenges we see in our world today, and they're basically all caused by maximizing narrow pursuits and externalizing the costs to the whole. So this is a very, very deep tendency, and one, we're going to address it here in just a moment, but one sort of larger picture idea that gives me hope is that we can address some of our societal and planetary challenges as artists by addressing their microcosm in our own lives. So I'm going to say a few more words about that at the end. So let's try this. Let's try another little body movement here. We're going to tap our fingers going back and forth like this. All right, and I want you to do it really fast and make sure you get those fingertips right connected, like exactly symmetrical, each fingertip on only the fingertip and not any part of the pad. We want to get right angles there. Okay, so as you do that, I wonder if you can notice your body. Do you get tighter or freer? A lot of people tend to get tighter with this. And your sense of space gets smaller, maybe your breathing stops, right? So now, what would it mean to then, instead of maximizing the narrow goal at the expense of the whole, but we would, instead of doing that, we could take account of the whole. We could reprioritize the whole, because the whole affects even the little part that we're doing here. So what you could do to rebalance things is to say to yourself, my well-being matters. My well-being matters. You just say that to yourself as you tap your fingers back and forth. My well-being matters. My well-being matters. My well-being matters. And you notice what kind of difference that makes to your quality of movement, to your mood, your sense of time and space, your performance here with your fingers. My well-being matters. I did this today with a violin student of mine, an adult, and he has a tendency, like so many of us, to get tight when trying something new. He likes to really try hard, and I get that too, because that tendency is pretty deeply ingrained in me, which is why I got into so much trouble. And so we were just playing some scales together, and I had him say to himself, my well-being matters, my well-being matters. And it made such a difference. Yeah, I could see in his body language, instead of like this, he was so much more relaxed and back in himself, and his sound got better, right? Because that muscular tension interferes with the sound. Everything was more flowing. His bow hold, instead of like having a death grip, was, looked much more like flowing water. Okay, so these are some ideas. These are some of my best tips and tricks here. And with the idea that you can face those same challenges, the challenge of getting up on stage, the challenge of preparing for something really difficult like an audition, that you can face those same challenges from a place of wholeness, aliveness, connection, ease. Because the reason that's so important is because it's only those qualities that allow your soul force to come through. And again, you can give a performance or you can give an audition, but it's not going to be an electrifying one. Not going to be a transformative one, a transfixing one, unless your soul force is coming through. Your body is your channel for your soul force. So if you can find ways of being at ease when in moments of technical or creative challenge, then you got it made. And yeah, and the good thing is you don't have to create your soul force. Don't have to manufacture it. Don't manipulate it. Don't have to try to make anything happen. You just get out of the way of it, and it'll shine. And when that happens, people will be so grateful for who you are and your creativity. This is not a guarantee that you're going to win certain auditions, but your musicality, your artistry, your well-being will be greatly enhanced if you do this. And it might even help you win those auditions. But again, to focus on winning the audition or getting a perfect performance is trying to maximize, or could be trying to maximize, a narrow goal at the expense of your well-being. So, and as I'm not saying don't do performances and auditions. By all means, do them. Just be very wary of the way these kinds of situations invite you to forget your wholeness. Okay. So I hope you found that useful. And, I love teaching this subject matter. I feel so deeply about it. So I'd like to say some final words here. So I'm an author, and I'm the director of the Soulforce Arts Institute. So this kind of material is what I do. This is my specialty, and my mission is to bring this to artists all around the world so that we can reclaim our soul force, because it really gets lost in the way that a lot of arts are taught, and the kind of arts institutions and performance opportunities and other, just the way that the arts are done in our society tends to squash our soul force. And I'd like to change that. And I'm doing that in a variety of ways, and there are some ways that you can join if you wish. So first, I just finished writing a book. I'm so excited. It's going to be out in print in maybe a month, a little over a month. It's called Soulforce: How to Discover Your Artistic Purpose, Create More Freely, and Make Art That Matters. You can go to soulforcearts.com to find out more about that. It's available for pre-order. So if you enjoyed what I was saying here, you want to show your support, you can pre-order that. Again, you can find that on my website. You can also sign up for my newsletter. I send out maybe 1 or 2 emails a month with blog posts and videos on these topics, and letting people know about events, online and otherwise. And yeah, you can get a free mini course on Soulforce, discovering your soul force, when you sign up for that. And there's, if you're interested in something with more human connection than social media and a newsletter, as great as those things can be at times, I also have an online community and learning platform called the Soulforce Arts Community. And this brings together artists, conscious artists of all kinds and abilities and backgrounds to discover our artistic purpose and to create more freely and to meet our artistic challenges with ease and wholeness, just like we've been doing here, as well as to make art that really matters to our world today. And so we do all these things together, because we can't really do this alone. This is not something we can do alone. We need others to inspire us and to remember what's important, to help us remember what's important, to pick us up when we're down, and who can rely on us to pick them up when they're down. And so in this community, we'll do these classes regularly. And there's all kinds of engagement in the forum, polls and questions, and sharing our art. I'm hoping that we can, through this community, have the seed for a global shift in our approach to the arts, one that honors our soul force. So if you'd like to be a part of that, you can check that out again through my website. And the first 25 members get a discount, so you can check that out. And otherwise, if you want to take private lessons with me in person or online, I'm available for that as well. Okay, so thank you so much for joining. Good to meet you, Heidi. I wish our internet connection was better so we could have interacted more fluidly, but I appreciated having you here anyway. Let's all say goodbye then.